So to give you the historical background on the location, Mount Moriah is the Temple Mount. The land of the temple was actually purchased by David. David conquered the city of Jerusalem from the Jebusites. Okay, it had not belonged to Israel prior. He conquers it to make it his capital. And we mentioned this in another episode, but he's sort of creating a like a Washington D.C. space, because it's on the border between Judah and Benjamin. It's actually in Benjamin, but it sits right on the border. And they had never taken it before, so he wasn't taking any land from them. And he was intentionally putting his capital outside of Judah, which was his tribe, to say to everyone else, look, I'm not a homer. I'm for the whole country, So it's very intentional. But then Jerusalem becomes special when David, goes and gets the Ark of the Covenant and moves the ark, which represented the presence of God, into the city. Like he was, something special is happening there, where you have like the secular and the royal, the political, but David is saying, but I want God to be at the center of all that, and I want God to be at the center of our capital in the city, in our country. And I think God honored that, and he establishes David's line. You can read that, like you're gonna have somebody on the throne forever, and Jesus came from his line. You got that whole thing. So now the city is built. Later, after David sins, he wants to do something special. He wants to build a temple. There's never been a temple before, and so he goes above the city, because at that time the city was farther down the hill than it is today.
Gotcha.
And so where the temple is now was actually above the city, because in ancient cities you tended to put temples or religious things, like if you've seen a picture of Athens or something, where the Acropolis, the Parthenon on it sits way up above. That was sort of more the model back then. So the temple, God's house should be at the top of the city, and then just below that you have the palace of the king, and then all the other humans down below. And so he wants to create that, which is what's being referenced here when it says that Solomon built the temple and his palace. He's creating that model where you have sort of God, then the king, and then the humans. He's in physical structure. So David wants to build that. He buys the property up above the city, but God says, no, you can't build a temple. Your hands are bloody, because David was a man of war and violence and fighting. And God was like, let's get somebody else to build a temple. So then Solomon builds it, and God blesses that and says, I'm in. I'm down with that.
Gotcha.
And the temple comes to represent God's presence. It represents the people of Israel, sort of the Jewish people in general, and in particularly it's where the presence of God is. And a huge amount of the text in the Old Testament revolves around it, particularly like in the Torah. This is where you do the feast and the fasting and all, not the fasting, but the feast and the offerings. This is where we gather. This is a super ultra important space, right?
Yep.
Now, anytime that's destroyed, it means something, so when Babylon comes in and destroys the temple, it's clearly recorded in the Old Testament as a judgment of God. This is not just an accident. It's not just a thing that happened. This is God's judgment, because you have been bad. Then I'm judging you. I'm letting this be destroyed. And then later they come back in and rebuild it. And that's a sign of God's blessing coming back. So it's ultra, ultra, ultra important. And it's always symbolic space. Hey guys, if you like our content, please click like and subscribe. That really helps us out a lot. And then also go to thelandinthebible.com and subscribe for premium content. If you go over there, we've got tons of stuff that's really great. We have print materials that you can download. We have PDF study guides for all of our lessons. We've got devotional materials over there. We also have every single video and podcast we've done in full-length format with no ad interruptions and full video. So you can get all of that on thelandinthebible.com with the premium subscription, and that really helps us. It helps us generate more content, and also half of it goes to help us go overseas and help refugee kids, is what we're really called to do.